So you've been mind controlled, boys and girls, and we've moved so far away from nature, but let's say so far away from this endocannabinoid system that we've lost our way. And who's led us there? And you could draw your own conclusions there, but it's pretty obvious who's led us there. But we need to come back. We need to come back to nature. We need to understand this system, and we need to understand how close it is to nature and how nature impacts it. But that's really cool, isn't it? Isn't that good news? Because what does that mean? That means that I can use nature to impact this system. Wow. And that's what we figured out in 2016. Again, we wanted to kind of make a living, let's say, around doing that. So I wrote some patents around doing that. But, I can't give away what's in my patents and what I do, but I tell you everything all around what's in my patents and what I do. So we've been talking about this for a long, long time, that nature can impact this endocannabinoid system, and that can help you fight disease, that can energize you, that can help you overcome things like autism, that can all kinds of miracle-like things, because those miracle-like things, people don't get autism in nature. You don't see an autistic deer. No, it doesn't happen, because they live closer to nature. They understand how to feed this system. Okay, so let's talk about that practically a little bit. Well, what does the system look like inside of us? Well, we've got these things called neuroreceptors. So most of us have heard about that. We have an opiate system that, is being impacted by fentanyl, and you hear about it in the news every day. We have a serotonin system that's kind of our work system. So if you need to blink your eyes or cough or, talk or, do anything motor skill wise, serotonin is going to be involved and help regulate that activity. You have a dopamine system, and a dopamine system really has to do with our mind and kind of how our mind works, our emotionality, being able to control our mind and all that. But we have an endocannabinoid system that sits above and regulates all of those other systems. So how does it do it? Well, it does it through things called neuroreceptors. And so basically in your central nervous system, cells will express things called neuroreceptors. And these neuroreceptors are like little, I won't tell you what I'll tell you what science says that they are now. It'll get a little too woohoo to tell you what they really do. But let's say they're little like lock and key systems, okay? So they're like the lock will express on a cell, and then the key will be a neuroreceptor that will come along and basically turn that lock and create action within that cell. So that's how neurology works. That's how pharmacology works, which is really, really cool. And there's a lot more to it, obviously, than that, but at its basic level. So anyway, you have these things called CB1s that will express on every cell except a blood cell for some reason, but a red blood cell, which is a weird kind of different cell. But every single cell inside of you will pop up a CB1 neuroreceptor. Again, wouldn't it have to if the endocannabinoid system is your master regulatory system? So CB1s look to be our control surface. So in electronics, I'm an electrical engineer, so I kind of like to think about things electronically. So in electronics, it's like, sensor points, it's like control points. And you want a bunch of, surface area that you can kind of monitor and also control. And it looks like, again, not only every cell, but organelles inside of cells. So your endoplasmic reticulum, your mitochondria have CB1 neuroreceptors. So again, you need a lot of surface area to begin to control a lot of things within your body. And that's exactly what the CB1 neuroreceptor is. Now, interestingly, can you impact your ability? Let's say, can you impact these neuroreceptors inside of our body? Could we give ourselves more control surface and help ourselves by giving ourselves more control? Yeah. That's exactly what THC does. Now, sadly, it comes with some, happily, I guess, for some people, but sadly for some, it comes with some psychoactivity. So there's a little bit of a downside, but things like THCA, again, don't come with that psychoactivity. So impacting your THC neuroreceptor, your CB1 neuroreceptor, or causing your body to express more CB1 neuroreceptors helps you. It helps you with engineering. It helps you with, let's say, more control, more surface control. So it's going to give you more ability to control all different cells and surfaces in your body. So CB1s are very important. Understanding when and how they express is important, and then being able to impact them. So in a perfect world, I want to be able to cause you to express more CB1 neuroreceptors and then give you something that's going to help you impact those. So inside of you, you have a natural thing called anandamide. Anandamide was really is kind of the stake in the ground of the discovery of the endocannabinoid system. And it was discovered in 91 or 93. I never can remember. For some reason, those numbers get confused in my head. But it was discovered, let's say, in the early 90s. And it was discovered by the Meshulam group, to put it, not go down that rabbit hole, but it was discovered by the Meshulam group. That group decided to name that molecule. It's called AEA as well, but they decided to call it, and again, ethanolamide, blah, 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 big old long word, but they decided to call it anandamide. So your main control molecule in your body, an endocannabinoid, that's built from omega-6 fatty acids, by the way. So you don't build it from anything in marijuana. You build it from corn. But anandamide is your main control surface in the endocannabinoid system. And anandamide is what impacts the CB1 neuroreceptor and will cause you to do work. And again, the more anandamide you have, the more ability you have to do work. And the more CB1 neuroreceptors you have, the more ability you have to do work. So what does that mean? Quicker reaction, better, and quicker ways to deal with energy, status changes, emotionality, better abilities to be adaptive and plastic and emotionality and everything, right? So that's kind of where we want to be, right? We want to have a lot of CB1 neuroreceptors expressed, and we want to have a lot of things to express to basically impact those receptors. It's just like in a car, you want a bunch of sensor points and you want an ability to affect those sensor points and mechanisms of change as you discover things, and you want tighter control, let's say, over your vehicle. So that's exactly what happens with CB1 in the endocannabinoid system. Now, coolly, you can impact CB1 neuroreceptors. So there are, things in nature that will supplement the endocannabinoid system and help with CB1. What are those things? Well, cannabis obviously is one. There's stuff, and it's hard to find CB1 effectors in nature. No joke. I spent 10 years looking for CB1 effectors in nature, and there's some, there's some in common stuff. There's CB1 effectors in kava. There's CB1 effectors that are dietary fats, let's say. So there are CB1 effectors around, but when you go to plants in nature, it's kind of, they're not like obvious and everywhere. You have to work, but the thing that is common across the world is cannabis. So you can always affect a CB1 neuroreceptor with cannabis. Now, there's other ways to affect the receptor. And basically when let's say a lock goes into a key, there's a timing mechanism there. So that reaction will only stay active for so long. And in the endocannabinoid system, you have something called hydrolase. And so at CB1, you have something called fatty acid amyl hydrolase. And it'll come along, whoop, and every once in a while, basically sweep out that key and open that lock back up to other action. And so that's important in your body. You've got to be able to control a reaction, and that's one of the ways that you control the reaction. FA at CB1, fatty acid amyl hydrolase, is what controls the reaction at CB1. And again, that's part of your endocannabinoid system and the way that you shut down those reactions. So you're controlling surface area, but you also need a way to kind of calm all that down. And FA is a way to do that. Now, in nature, it's really cool. There are lots of FA inhibitors. Red clover is a FA inhibitor. There are just maca is a FA inhibitor. There's just tons of FA inhibitors in nature, which is really cool because, again, generally, we've got enough anandamide. We've got enough control in our endocannabinoid system to do what we need to do. It's sometimes we need to calm that sucker down. So if you look at people who are immunocompromised, so people who are having too strong of an immune reaction, that is endocannabinoid related. And again, that can somewhat be calmed down by FA and some other things. Immune is more CB2, which we're going to talk about right now.